I want to share a true story with you. My name is Elaine Balsley, and I would like to introduce you to my late uncle, whom I never knew, Staff Sergeant William James McCoy, Jr. Billy was killed in World War II during his 21st mission over Germany when he and his B-17 crew were shot down just 6 miles from the safety of the Swiss border. Shells from enemy aircraft split their plane in two. Bill's parents, both Irish immigrants, were older and took their son's loss extremely hard. My mother and my aunt kept all Bill's letters, photographs, and other documents for years since the 1940s. I could tell from the now yellowed and dog-eared letters that they had been opened and read many, many times, so they could recall all the memories they had with their brother. Since I was a little girl, they'd often talk about Billy and the fact that he loved art and wanted to become an artist. In fact, after high school, he enrolled in Carnegie Tech, now Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, and completed 1 year studying art. There is only one piece of art left of Bill's, and that watercolor is now hanging in my home. Because of our mutual love of art, even though I never met my uncle, a close bond has been established between us. Billy joined the U.S. Army Air Corps when he was 20 years old and was assigned to the 447th Bomb Group, 708th Squadron. He had been working at a propeller manufacturing company after his year in college when he enlisted. After training, Bill's assigned position was a tail gunner on the B-17 Flying Fortress. He and his crew were stationed at the Army Air Base in Rattlesden, England. Some of the buildings and sections of the runway are still there. For a tail gunner, there wasn't much room at the rear of the bomber, separated somewhat from the rest of the crew, just hanging out there over the earth with threatening enemy fighters circling around. A tail gunner spent most of his time in combat on his knees. P-51 Mustangs and other Allied fighters did their best to protect all the bombers that were trying to maintain a tight formation while en route to the target zone. Because of limited fuel, the fighters were restricted as to the length of time and distance they were able to escort the bombers and had to turn back to their base in England. B-17s flew at an altitude of 18 to 25,000 feet. The crew's protection against the bitter cold was just a leather jacket with a roll collar, a helmet, goggles, oxygen mask, and gloves. Not only did the crew have to fight off the enemy, but had to protect themselves from serious frostbite. The average temperature at that altitude would have been about 30 degrees below zero or lower. 8 hours was probably the length of an average mission in the plane with no pressurized cabin or heat. Many of these photographs were taken recently at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton. Each time I go there and walk around the Memphis Belle, the B-17 that is currently on display, I tear up when I see the tail gunner turret. When I think of how vulnerable that position was, I cannot imagine how terrifying it was for Billy to be sitting out there with little or no protection, while enemy aircraft are shooting at him and his teammates, and flak was floating all around them. When I came across the old documents in my mother's basement back in the 90s, I knew I had to do something with them so people would get to know Bill through his letters as I have. The letters are at the heart of my book. I want to honor Billy's memory and the memory of all those who sacrificed their lives and still are for our country and the freedoms we enjoy today. This book, Letters from the War, Between the Lines, was a labor of love and may be purchased through Amazon.com and the Air Force Museum, Dayton, Ohio.